Hello, I am Luke McDonough, and I am the apartment guy.
Hello everyone, I am Zach Olson, and I'm stuck with the condos today.
This is Mpls Livin, sponsored by DRG. Today we're going to talk about, because I'm the apartment guy, this guy's the condo guy, we're going to talk about what the difference between an apartment and a condo is. So why don't you start it off, Zach? What's the difference between an apartment and a condo?
Totally, and to kind of explain why we're doing this, over the years of Luke and I doing real estate in Minneapolis, a lot of the people we work with will come to us and be like, hey, we want to rent, we want to buy, what can we rent or buy? And over that period of time, we've spent a lot of time explaining to people the different types of rentals, for example, that they can rent. So condos are what I'll be talking about mostly. So that's going to be the buildings where private owners will purchase a condo. So whether it be a North Loop, Mill District, downtown, what have you, they will purchase it. And then for some reason, life will take them elsewhere and they won't want to sell at the given market. They'd prefer to rent it. Now, when you rent a condo, it's slightly different than an apartment building, but also similar in a lot of ways. I would say the biggest difference is you're going to be renting from a private owner, not a large management company. And whenever it's a private owner, things are going to be a little bit simpler, but also more complicated, if that makes sense. And the reason for that is when you rent a condo, the owner of the unit will pay for HOA dues, so homeowner association dues. When they actually get charged those dues, that covers a lot of things like maintenance on the parking, some utilities, internet, cable, a lot of those things that in apartment buildings, they charge you extra for. So those would be the big differences, just how they get billed.
Just to start off, in terms of a condo and apartment, obviously condos, like you said, privately owned, apartments, a full multifamily building, all of the units are rentable. They're all owned by the same entity, the developer or the owner of the apartment building, managed by the same company, and they're all rentable. None of them are for sale. So the difference is that they're privately owned condos and apartment buildings. Where apartments and condos differ, outside of what Zach said, it's going to be the deposits are usually a little bit different, whereas at a condo, you're going to see a full month's deposit. You're going to see a smaller deposit with apartments. So because I'm the apartment guy, kind of how we want to differentiate, I think that there's good and bad to both. I mean, it's more dependent on situation and what people are looking for. So I think that one thing we should do is talk about, if I'm someone looking for an apartment, why would I choose an apartment? And if you're someone looking for a condo, why would you choose an apartment when you're looking to rent? So for me, if I meet somebody and they're looking for an apartment, I would say the big thing is I like apartments for people who are just moving into town, because you have a bunch of people who are also renting. So I think it's a little bit, especially in Minneapolis, it's a little bit harder to meet people. So that's one point that I'll always make, especially if it's a newer apartment building. Everyone's new to the building.
Just when it's -20.
Yeah.
Just when it's -20. It's hard to get outside.
I think it's still, Minnesota in general is known for being a little bit more difficult to meet people. So I think having more people in a similar situation as you makes it a little bit easier transition if you're coming into town.
Totally. Yeah, and to piggyback off that, pros for condos. So a lot of the times when we get people that want to rent a condo, it's going to be more of like the empty nesters, right? So the people that lived out in Wayzata, Edina, what have you, kids go off to college, now they're sitting in a 4,000 square foot single family home and they're like, goodness, we're driving to the city every day to, go to the Twins games, check out the Vikings, go to Spoon and Sable, do XYZ. Why don't we live down there? So a lot of those people will actually come in and be like, hey, we want to buy, but we don't know where we want to buy or what we want to buy. So renting a condo essentially gives you a chance to try it before you buy it. So that'd be a majority of the people I work with that'll be like, hey, we're selling our home here. We want to buy eventually, but before we spend, $500,000 on a condo, why don't we live here and make sure we like it, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be the pro for the condos. What else do you got for apartments?
Well, I
Yeah.
think another thing for apartments is you'll have more options. Fewer condos have been built in Minneapolis than apartments. The apartments, you're also, because there's more being built, you're going to have more modern options typically. There are new condos like 11, Legacy, just newer condos have been built, but there's just fewer options, and all of these owners obviously aren't renting those units. So in terms of just having overall just more to pick from, you're going to have apartments. And then we spoke before about amenities. Newer condos will have quite a few amenities, but for the most part, you're going to get more amenities in apartments. So you'll usually get a pool, a hot tub, a fitness center. Fitness centers are usually bigger, depending on the condo that you're choosing. Like, there's a few loft style apartments in around town. I would say most of them are in North Loop. But for the most part, if you're looking for that loft style, then that's more of the condo route I think you'd go if that's like what you're needing for the vibe that you're trying to live in.
Totally.
But yeah, anything else? And I guess, so the big thing for me, like I said, the deposit, there's also move-in fees for condos. There's a lot of upfront costs. So someone coming in not wanting to spend a lot of money right at the top, like, can you break down what it looks like to rent a $2,500 condo at a specific property?
Yeah, totally. So let's just use 730 lofts for an example here in North Loop. Assuming you meet a realtor or you find a private owner that introduces you to a property there, let's say you want to move forward with it. The first thing to do would be to agree to terms with the owner. So agreeing to terms pretty much means when you're going to move in, how long of a lease you're looking for. You're going to disclose things like, hey, I have a cute dog, XYZ. And then once you guys agree on those terms, a lot of the buildings in Minneapolis, condos, I should say, are managed by FSR, so First Service Residential. They will actually have you do an application. So very similar to like an apartment building. Their application is generally around $78. I've seen a little higher if you're coming from like out of state or you've lived in a lot of states, but it's generally around that price. From there, once the application is submitted, comes back good, you haven't killed anyone recently, which is always thumbs up.
Recently.
Right, recently. Then what they'll do is they charge an HOA move-in fee. So every building is different. I would say on average it's gonna be about $200 is what you can expect in like North Loop. As you get to like the high rises by Mill District, you're gonna get closer to like $600 to $800. And what the move-in fee is essentially the property manager getting you acclimated to the building. So they're going to schedule your move-in. They're going to tell you where to pull the U-Haul up so you're not awkwardly like lugging a couch in at 2 p.m. They're going to get you on the call rail, or excuse me, not the call rail, call box. So if, Luke tries to come over with a burrito one day, he can just call you and let you in. So you're going to have the move-in fee. The other thing that's different, like Luke mentioned, is security deposit. What's typical for most apartments is they're going to do $500. Most privately held, they're going to ask for 1 month's rent. And the reason for that is a lot of these owners that rent out their homes, they're not necessarily doing it as like an investment property, right? It's more or less you're coming in, you're paying their mortgage, and they're praying to God you don't destroy their home. So a lot of them will take that security deposit and hold on to it and pray and pretty much be like, I hope they don't throw a TV out the window if, the Vikings don't make the Super Bowl. So that's...
Or at least hopefully it's their TV that they throw out the window.
Yeah, hopefully. But that's why the upfront costs will be a little bit more. Now, the caveat to that is when you look at like condos versus apartments upfront will cost a lot less because they want to get you in the door. That's why they'll do like month free, 2 months free parking. They'll walk your dog for a month, XYZ. Condos are the opposite. So they're going to charge you a larger sum up front to frankly deter renters. They want to make sure they get quality renters that can put forward that money. And then over the course of the lease, you're actually going to pay less because a lot of the things are included like we talked about in the HOA dues. But yeah, so that's going to be condos. Apartments, is there any?
Yeah, I mean, Zach said that the typical apartment deposit is $500, and that's usually the case. I'd say penthouses, it can get a little bit higher, but I've also seen apartment buildings offering deposits a lot actually are now $300. I've seen $99 or some specials where there's no deposit.
Can't afford not to, huh?
Yeah,
We should get one, yeah.
So the upfront costs are obviously a lot smaller, but yes, you're going to be having to pay for all of your utilities at these newer luxury apartment buildings, and you're going to have to pay for parking. So you got to add on, if you need one parking stall, you're going to have to add on like $300 to $400 on top of the rent that's advertised typically. But then yes, you're going to see more specials at an apartment building as opposed to a condo. So you'll get like 2 months free on, these days. In the winter months you might see a little bit more specials, but overall they're both good choices dependent on your situation. And I'm the apartment guy, so I lean more towards apartments, but I understand someone who would want a condo.
Totally. Yeah, and to caveat out that too, I don't think there's a wrong route, whether it be apartments or condos. We just like to educate people more or less on the two options. Because if you're looking in North Loop and you're strictly looking at apartments, you're going to miss out on a bunch of opportunities that might be better for you, and vice versa in the condo world. So yeah, that'll be our kind of 2 cents on it. What else are you thinking?
I think that's good. That's our 2 cents on apartments and condos.
Yeah.
This is Mpls Livin. This is Zach, the condo guy for today. I'm Luke. I'm the apartment guy. Have a wonderful day.
See ya.